Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above, So Below, a Rune and Tarot divination for Thursday, the 24th day of February 2022. Let's see if I have written down what last time's was. I'm not sure what I've done with it. Well, that's okay. Anyhow, we won't worry about that. You know, thoughts are with Ukraine this morning. And what they're going through. I mean, it's shocking and you know difficult. So anyhow, we'll send good, loving thoughts to the people of Ukraine today, and at their at this dire time in their lives. From the esoteric influences for today, from the post that I do, the weekly post I do, we have a 6 numerology, which involves empathy, a shared path, guidance, responsibility. The rune from that particular post for Thursday was Yira, or year. It also means unfolding awareness, transformation. It's for gardening, believe it or not. Cycles, energetic alignment, and fertility. I used it in a garden bind rune that I made several copies of, and I have them hanging around in different greenhouses and around specific garden areas. I need to actually redo them, I think, this year because they're getting kind of ratty, and so I've had to replace the cords on them. The geomancy rune for today from the esoteric influences, Tristitia, or sadness, grief, sorrow, protection. It's also considered evil. Quick-tempered is another keyword for that. Secretive. The sun's in Pisces, the moon is in Sagittarius. And your empathy for others is strong today. And a friend or acquaintance may reach out to you who is experiencing grief or loss. Be aware that initially this person may only be seeking a compassionate ear, and it's best to allow him or her to take the lead in expressing his or her feelings. As you learn more, you may then be asked to offer guidance or your perspective. Sometimes we forget that really sometimes all people want to do is have someone listen to them, and we're offering all these solutions when that can be really overwhelming. It's like, no, I'm not there yet. I just need to dump my feelings here, and I need someone to just hear me. That's really all people are looking for. Once that happens, then they may be in a space to actually then, if you have some advice, if you have experience or something with what they're going through, you have some insight about it, then they're ready to hear it, but oftentimes not before that. An attitude of selfless service to others brings peace and joy as you nurture the relationships you've built over time today. And although you might prefer solitude to relax from the stresses of the day, you're also ready to engage with partners in a manner that preserves harmony and draws support. In short, you have an inspiring presence that values the needs of others, and they're attracted to the perspective you offer. Should tensions increase today, you may need to reevaluate how you see a particular situation so that any conversations you have don't devolve into unnecessary conflict. In other words, a little restraint may go a long way until all factors are known. So I'll get rid of that, and let's go ahead. If this is your first time here, welcome. I do a little bit of this esoteric influences for I do it on Monday and also on Thursday. But if you want the whole thing, you can go to the blog over at imsteppingaside.com. I post it on Saturday night. And also on the side panel, you can scroll down and find the newsletter sign up if you want to get it in your inbox. I put that, and then I've been putting some stuff on the cosmic rays in it, and just other kinds of esoteric things that you'll find in there. Also having to do with magic and things like that. So if you want to sign up for that, that'll come out also on Saturdays for the remainder of the week, for the whole week that's coming up. So you can do that as well. And again, sign-ups over there on the blog at Stepping Aside. And listen, links are below the video here of wherever I am. So if you want to, mostly I'm on Twitter, especially right now. I'm trying to see what's going on over there in Ukraine. But let's go ahead and take the Elder Futhark rune, and then we'll go ahead and discover the geomancy rune for this reading, and then we'll start taking we'll do 3 cards, and if we need more, we'll take them. So anyhow, but if you're here and this is your first time, welcome. If you've come back, thank you, and I'd love you to click subscribe if you want to do that. That'd be great. But let's see what the rune is. I'm letting him fall through my fingers here inside the bag. And we have Yura. Happens to align with the esoteric influences rune, so we already know what that is. Energetic alignment means year. It's Kenaz, forward and reverse, twice, basically. So it's really the light of spirit infusing without and within. So sometimes that happens. Usually not. Usually it's the geomancy runes, but sometimes that'll actually come up again. That'll align with the day's particular reading, but from esoteric influences. But now, oh well, no, okay. It looks like we have Rubius now. Rubius, I look at I'll back up. I look at the Elder Futhark rune as the as above side of as above, so below. I view it as a language of spirit. Let me find Rubius. Here it is. And then the geomancy rune is going to be the below side. And depending on what that is, we had Tristitia, which has an element of negativity to it. It's grief and loss and all that for the esoteric influences. But then now we have Rubius. Its complement is Albus. So Albus would be the sage or wisdom or clarity. But Rubius would be misuse of force. It's going to be the adult side. You have Pur and Puella, which are young people, young kids. And so Pur would be an unstable influence, but it's on the level of a little boy. So it's a different type of unstable influence, whereas Rubius, on the other hand, is really a misuse of force. It's passion run amok. It's it's really considered evil. It might be one of the ones. There's a couple of them where if you draw it on the first, if you're doing a whole geomancy chart and you draw it first, you're supposed to destroy the reading. I can't remember if Rubius is one of those. I tend not to, because I think it is what it is. But right now, we need to be expressing the light of spirit both inward and outward to transmute basically ego into spirit. So we can look at the 2 runes probably that way. But let's see what the cards have to say, and they may come up with maybe another direction for that. I've already been shuffling here. I'll do a little bit more. It's nice just to sometimes sit and shuffle cards. Sometimes I'll do that just because. And I've been noticing that the decks that I don't use as often, I find that I don't relate well to them. And it could be another Rider-Waite style deck. So you're looking at the same pictures, right? The same symbols, the same depictions. But if you don't have an energetic interaction with the deck of cards, then I don't know, it feels funny. And I was using another one the other day, just out sitting in my chair, and because it was there, so I grabbed it. I didn't come in and get this one or the other Rider-Waite deck I used to use here. And it just, I don't know, I couldn't relate to what I was doing at all. But then when I came in and got this one, suddenly, oh yeah, sure. And I actually haven't had this that long. I think, when did I buy this? Either December or first part of January or something. I haven't had this very long, but I really, really like it. And I really, I just got into it right away. I just connected with it. And I think that it's true. I think that when you read tarot, you will actually connect with maybe a deck or two more than you will with all the others. And I also like to use non-traditional decks. And so, I have ones that I relate to, and others, it's like I look at them, I have no idea what it says. It's not, I don't know why. And I think it's just that energetically I don't align with it. So for whatever reason I did with this one, and I'm glad because I love it. It's the kind without the border, and and they use a different kind of a grayish blue background in a lot of them, and I don't know, I relate to those colors, I guess. But let's go ahead and we'll cut the deck. And we'll take our first 3 cards. Oh, interesting. Well, we'll see. We might go. We've been getting a lot of major arcana cards, so we didn't get any this time. We got wands, swords, and cups. So fire, air, and water. So will, intellect, and emotion. But we're going to begin with the 10 of wands. And here we see a man carrying 10 staffs. The 10 is really about both endings and beginnings. It's kind of like the rune de Gaz in a way. And when you write it in the Roman numeral, it looks like Gebo, but if you were to terminate each ends, you'd have de Gaz, basically. But the idea of endings and completion and new beginnings inherent in the whole card. If you reduce the 10 to 1, it's new beginnings. So it seems like he's walking towards something new, building something, maybe carrying a heavy burden. You can look at it a couple of different ways here. But there's an element of this. He's not really looking, he's bent over, he's leaning into the future in a way. And even though the burden is heavy, he trusts the process because he's really not looking where he's going per se. And that's the one thing that's always, stood out to me about this card, that he's trusting the process because he's not looking where he's going, but he knows where he's going, right? He knows where he's coming from. He knows where he's going. And that's, I guess, another reason why it reminds me of the rune de Gaz, because it's end of one phase and the beginning of another. Or it's also, the key word, I guess, is new day or day for de Gaz. Like with Yura, it's year. So we have unfolding awareness here with Yura, and energetic alignment with Yura. And in a sense, he's aligned in his own process and his own purpose. Even though, he's got all of this burden in front of him. With wands, it's the fire element. So is it really a burden for him? Even though it can be read that way. And I suppose with other cards, then sure, you might actually see it that way. But I don't know. I've never really, I see that, but it doesn't resonate as much as I know where I'm going. I've got my ducks in a row. I've made my plans. I've created whatever I need to create, and I'm moving forward. And I have it all here, and I trust the process as I go from one phase to another. You also see the line of demarcation here. This was then, and this is now, and this is the future, maybe. So he's building something new creatively for himself, maybe for his family as well, because you see a home over here. So then that would be a 1 energy there. Here we have an 8 of swords. We see a woman blindfolded and bound. She's surrounded by swords. Now, I look at this in 2 ways. Again, a couple different ways. Here we have the strength to turn away from the noise around us, from all of the input from other people that can get pretty loud, and you just want to be comfortable with your own thoughts. And so you blindfold yourself, you close your eyes to all the noise and chaos around you, and you are going within and not allowing anybody else to come in with you. All right, nobody else's perceptions are interfering with that. Now that's probably the most positive way to think of this card. On conversely, though, it could be that we are feeling bound by our own perceptions. More often than not, that's how I interpret the card, or we are being bound by our own perceptions. But still, I can't get away from the idea that we're also turning off the noise and turning off the chaos. But perhaps it's our own. Especially if the perceptions that we've been experiencing and offering and all of that, if it's something that is really not serving us well. We've bought into a bunch of propaganda or a bunch of lies, maybe, or it's a level of self-deception, maybe. So it just kind of, again, depends on where you are with this. Realistically, we could probably put the 8 first, and then and then 8 and 1 is 9, so we've got endings. And completion, maybe we're willing to let go of perceptions that no longer serve and then move forward with confidence and trusting the process. And that's another thing about the tarot. It's your reading. You can move the cards around if you need them to make a little more sense. I like things to flow. And so to me, we probably should begin with the 8, move on to the 10, and end with the 2. Because it's almost as if we've let go of perceptions that no longer serve. We're not getting in the way of ourselves anymore. We're trusting the process and moving on to something new. And now we can come back into harmony, either with others or balance the polarity within. We see the winged lion above. One day I called it the winged sun. It's like, no. I don't know. Well, sometimes you'll see the winged sun. You'll see it on different cards. The knights, one of the knights has it, and you'll see the winged disc, the sun disc right in the center. You see the wings coming out, and it's attached to the helmet. It's also in other cards in the tarot as well. It'll be expressed that way, and it's really about healing. And the same thing here. You see the caduceus here, and then it's depicted as the snake or the serpent, and then you see the winged lion above, and then you see the man taking a step forward and offering and he's got his chalice in one hand, but he's reaching forth with the other, and to the woman as she stands there receptive. So this, if you look at this in terms of polarity, then this would be the masculine polarity or the projective. Therefore, he's stepping forward, whereas the feminine side is the receptive side of self, and she's just waiting to receive, you see. But here we have balance. Again, they're stepping outside of their home, outside of their comfort zone, and you see this line of demarcation here as well. And they're ready to engage in a way that heals instead of, it being in conflict. This is a lot of conflict, but I suspect it's the inner conflict that we all have, the inner dialogue that we all have that either helps us or prevents us from moving forward. We all hear it. You've probably heard the term negative self-talk. Well, this could be a representation of that, right? And she's got to blindfold herself and bind herself so that she doesn't hear that anymore, so she can then gather her strength about her and move on. Right? But see, this is also with the 8, you're also talking a number of strength. You're also talking about material recognition and security and leadership. But this is taking the leadership and the ownership of her own perceptions and saying, okay, I'm going to think a different way now. And when that does see the doors open, and where Yura's going to come in terms of Kenaz, forward and reverse, you've got the light of spirit doing all that, transmuting the ego of Rubius into higher awareness and not allowing ego to guide your path. And so then when you're ready, you can move on and trust the process involved. Does that make sense? And it means that you've balanced the polarity within, and you've healed whatever, has been keeping you from moving forward. Or it could mean that you're healing something. After doing all this, you're ready to heal a relationship with someone else. You've trusted the process, see? You've built your future, and now he's ready to come back and make peace with the woman. Maybe this is the woman he wants to marry, for example. And maybe she just thought, you know what, you can't get it together. I don't know who you are. And so he gets it together, and this can represent, doesn't have to necessarily represent a woman. It can represent the whole concept of it all. But maybe he's balancing he's basically, what we're balancing here is intellect with the will, and not having one be any stronger really than the other, trying to go ahead and balance. You could look at these two together. And we have, like I said, we have a 9 energy for that, a 9 numerology. And so endings, completion, wholeness, generosity, spirituality. Well, not wholeness, that wouldn't be wholeness. But then we add 2 to that, and we have an 11, don't we? And so we have then the master number 11 for awakening and illumination. And again, for spirituality. Like the spiritual messenger, basically. But in order to do that, see, we have to understand that we have to be able to come into harmony and greater understanding with one another, so that we can heal whatever, the issues have been between us. So this doesn't really feel so much, even though the inner polarity is involved, this doesn't really feel with these other 2 cards like, with Yura, sure, it could be the energetic alignment within, but I really think this is the energetic alignment we seek with others, maybe. And again, they've stepped away from their life, and they've stepped out here, away from all other influences, and they've allowed compassion to drive this experience. So I don't think we need another card. I think that realistically what this is telling us today, to just sort of evaluate where our thoughts take us. Are they taking us in a way that prevents us from moving forward? Are they taking us to a place where compassion doesn't exist? Are they taking us to a place where we feel bound by our own perceptions? And in order to move forward, we have to let go of that. And we have to have the strength to let go of that, because it's hard, especially if you've gotten caught up in some kind of a cause or movement, or you've had these same perceptions for a long time, maybe. So whatever's keeping you stuck and bound in something, it's basically saying that in order for you to move on, you have to get an energetic alignment with source presence within, right, to where you can express that both within and without, where it lights the inner, the soul within you, instead of the ego being always in play, right, to allow you then to trust the process and move forward. And when you do that, see, when there's a level of healing here, because it's also willful, you're making the choice to do it. And from there, then, you can come into harmony with other people as you balance and gain that harmony within yourself. So if you have, if you felt stuck for a while, this may be talking about that process of getting yourself unstuck, being able to move forward, and then getting on with your life in a very positive and loving and caring, and understand, and in a way that understands the emotions and needs of other people. And I think really, realistically, energetic alignment in our own source presence is probably the fundamental aspect of this, especially when we've got Rubeus in the mix, trying to pull us. In a sense, Rubeus aligns pretty well with the Eight of Swords, because, depending on what the thought patterns were, they could be extremely ego-based and not reflecting any kind of balance at all. Swords really is about bringing things into balance, and she's not been able to do that. Now she's got to turn her back to it and go within to try to release the bonds that she's basically put on herself. And then when she does, see, she can move forward and trust the process of all the work she's done to release all of this, the strength she's showed, to then get into a healing space with other people or just with herself. Depends on, again, this is going to depend on whatever's happening in your life. Is this simply an inner kind of experience, or are we reaching out to someone else? And the way he's stepping forward and reaching out to her, to the receptive side of self, it's suggesting that we need to be understanding. We need to be, to show empathy for others and compassion and love, so that we heal whatever has been, wrong maybe with the relationship, so we could come together in harmony. So I guess that's really it. I suppose you could apply it to the situation in Ukraine, but that's a whole other, I think that's going to be a whole other video there. But again, we get these ideas in our heads, and maybe they are not as useful to us as we think they are. From the ego's perspective, they're probably just fine and dandy, but from the soul perspective, And if we're to get out of that, then we have to really go within and turn off the noise, even of our own thought patterns, and say, okay, what's really realistic here? What makes the most sense? And we all know when we're headed down the wrong path. We all know. It just may take us a while, to really accept that. And once we do, then we can get back on with things. And if relationships need to be healed, we're in a better space to do that. So anyway, we'll look at it from that perspective and see how that resonates for you. Come back on Monday and we'll do this all over again and see what Monday's cards and runes have to say. To help us move forward in our lives and maybe think about things, consider things we never thought of before. So anyhow, I've got pretty much everything almost done for next week. Some stuff I've already scheduled, so look for all that stuff to come out on Saturday night over at Stepping Aside. And there'll be this. I'll write this up and put this on Patreon as well as on the blog. But because I always do a write-up for Patreon over there. If you're following me over there, thank you. It's only $1 a month, so if you want to do that, that'd be lovely. I'd appreciate that. And otherwise, I also write on Medium. I have a couple things I put up there. I do usually do that on Sundays. But look for, the esoteric influences to come up. Look for the ascendant rays and other astrological information posts to go up. The weekly numerology goes up. And then the daily correspondences for Work and Magic also goes up. And then over on Patreon, I expand some of the recommendations. I'm just kind of do a little overall blurb for it on the other ones. But over on Patreon, I actually talk about things people can do and considerations to make for all of them and all of that. So check that out if you want to. But I guess that's it. Have a good weekend. And, I know that it's kind of stressful. Things that happen in another part of the world always affect us here in some way. So, if you can, send good thoughts out to the people of Ukraine and express love and do a meditation that reaches out to them, and because this has got to be a really scary time for them. So hopefully this won't last too long, and things can get back to some semblance of normalcy there, and which is going to be a beneficial thing for everyone if that does. So anyhow, thanks for watching, and we'll talk again on Monday. And thanks so much for stopping by. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.